This is Galen Waling from Julien-K, and you're listening to Nothing Shocking Podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Galen Waling.
Yeah, a drummer of Julien-K. They'll be touring the West Coast in support of Power Man 5000 this October.
Yeah, and they might have some new singles coming.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Great interview. Let's get to it.
All right, good night.
Good night.
For fans of Ragged Records, Trash Can Annie, downtown Davenport, we have October 28th. They're doing a live music show event at 6 p.m. with the Golden Fleece and Leviticus.
Fantastic. We'll be there. Galen, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Galen, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, man, stoked to be here.
Hey, well, thanks for agreeing to do that. You know, I can tell our audience that I put you on the spot in East Moline at the Rust Belt to come on the podcast as you were carrying a box to the merch table. So thanks for agreeing to do this, man.
Yeah, man, totally. No worries.
Absolutely. So Julien-K is preparing for a run of shows this October. Can you give our listeners an insight to what's on the horizon for the live shows for the band here coming up soon?
Sure. So we're doing a week, kind of like a Halloween run with Power Man 5000 from October 20th to October 28th. And we're going to do mostly California, and we're doing a date in Vegas and a date in Arizona. Just kind of like a nice little, small little West Coaster. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Well, not too long ago, you just got off the road with Power Man. You guys did a tour this past, what I guess it was July into August. Can you talk a little bit more about how the audience was as far as this post-COVID era goes?
I think this year has pretty much brought everything back to normal, if not better, because people were so starved for music and live shows. All of the turnouts of all the shows that I have been a part of, whether I'm playing or teching this year, have been really, really solid, no matter the size of the tour. So, yeah, I think live music is back in a big way.
Fantastic.
Talk a little bit about your, the drum kit that you bring up on your live tours. Do you use like a similar set to what you do when you're making albums, or how does it work for you?
Sure. So I currently am sponsored by SJC Drums, Saluda Cymbals, Los Cabos Drumsticks, Dream Ears monitors, and exclusively use Big Fat Snare Drum and Aquarian drum heads. So that has been my setup. Right now I'm running I have a birch and koa wood drum kit. I have a 12 by 9, a 16 by 14, and a 22 by 20 kick. And I'm using a 14 by 6.5 snare made out of walnut. So that has been the go-to setup that all of most of the sound guys that we've used have kind of raved about. So that's what I kind of keep it.
Oh, so cool. So I hope I'm not going to offend you here, but watching you perform live, you give me the vibe. I feel like you're very Larry Mullen of U2 influenced in your style of play. I mean, every drummer has their own style of play, but am I totally off by saying that you might have a little bit of a Larry Mullen vibe to your playing style?
I haven't, to be perfectly honest, I haven't listened to a whole lot of U2 besides, the couple of songs that got played on the radio in the 80s. So I guess so. Sure. I take that as a high compliment for sure. I mean, U2 didn't get to where they are by, sucking. That's for sure. So, or being lazy musicians. No, they're all good at what they do. And yeah, they are who they are. So high compliment. I super appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So as we're on to the, your playing style, your drumming style, can you talk a little bit more about your direct influences of how you kind of maybe molded yourself as a drummer? Who did you take from?
It kind of went all across the board. When I was growing up, I played a lot of classical and jazz because I was in school and stuff. So, you're looking up to Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich and Art Blakey and Tony Williams and all those greats. And I also, from the new metal scene around that era, I really liked Morgan Rose from Seven Dust and Josh Freese and that kind of stuff, those kind of drummers. And more recently, I've been into like Thomas Pridgeon, more of the gospel drummers, Eric Moore, Tony Royster, and even some of the newer jazz guys like Mark Juliana. So, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Whole wide range.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was looking on your website. You do have a section where you have some of the bands that you played with. Can you talk a little bit more about like Left Spine Down?
Sure. So Left Spine Down, Vancouver, Canada, BC. They started, I think it was back in the early 2000s. I got in the band kind of right after, not long after Fighting for Voltage came out, their first album. It was comprised of a couple guys from who were in Frontline Assembly at the time, Jeremy Inkel and Jared Slingerland, band started by Kane DeLay and Matt Gervan originally. And, I was playing for a band called SMP at the time, and they were touring. We played a show in Vancouver, and they saw me play. And at the time, their drummer was already intending to leave, had already kind of, told the guys he didn't really want to do it anymore. And they contacted me and got in the band, and we did a lot of really cool touring with bands like Thrill Kill Cult and Ogre and Jackalope. We had an album that I did with them called Caution that came out on Metropolis Records and sold several thousand copies. It's a good time. Love those guys.
Fantastic. I wanted to bring this back to Julien-K in touring. Every band has their own methods when it comes to touring preparation, et cetera, et cetera. But can you talk a little bit more about Amir and Ryan's preparation for getting out there and going on tour and I guess preparing a set list and what have you?
Yeah, so Ryan kind of does a lot of the tour managing for that. We're a very DIY band. We do have a booking agent, but besides that, everything else is done in-house. So we keep everything really close, family kind of oriented thing. Anyway, Amir does a lot of the music production, and he does all our set lists and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's almost like a full-time job, literally. Especially pre-tour, we're making sure we're ordering shirts, we're checking materials for shirts and dye jobs to make sure it's the level of quality that you have come to know from the type of merch we have. It's having set lists and backing tracks all mixed for a live situation to make everything sound really awesome. We also have the light show, making sure that all of the MIDI time code has been worked out by our lighting guy to make sure all of the lights go off of all of the music cues. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. All of the hotels we book and mileage and, you know, all of the financials, all that stuff gets taken care of by both of those gentlemen. So yeah, kudos to them. I would not have a job without those guys. So
absolutely. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, yeah, you kind of alluded to most of that, but I was just sitting there thinking about it as you're going. That, you know, to be in a band nowadays, you know, the change of the changing climate of the music industry, you have to have multiple hats. You have to be able to be a promoter and you know, it's not just about getting up there and playing music anymore. You gotta cover all the bases yourself, pretty much. Is there? Do you find that challenging or rewarding to be kind of involved with getting more hands-on with the bands you play with?
I enjoy being hands-on, and to be honest, most of the bands I've been in have always been that way. There's always been in a lot of hands-on. I've only been in one or two situations where, you know, there's quote-unquote like handlers or something like that, or a manager making sure person A is here and person B is here type of thing. Everything has always been very hands-on, DIY. So kind of enjoy it, just kind of the way I roll, I guess.
Oh, fantastic. Julien-K is preparing to put out some new music, I guess a new single here soon, and a video. Can you give our listeners more information on this new anticipated music?
Sure. The next single, I believe, working title is All That Glitters, and I just got back from LA today, shooting the video with the guys. So we just finished that up over the weekend, and hopefully that will be out sometime later this year, I believe. I don't have an exact date yet. So yeah, still working on all that magic.
Oh, fantastic.
Do you have any insight you can provide on the video? Is there anything you can talk about, like a story?
It is going to be a lot more, I would say, artsy than some of our other videos. They're more of some conceptualism rather than just us playing instruments. Yeah.
Nice.
Fair enough.
It's really cool.
So, California Noir 1 and 2 are my favorite Julien-K albums. Has there ever been any thought process of performing both those albums live as far in touring off of that any time, or is that album now past the kind of date now to where it's on to new stuff now instead of old stuff?
Most of the time, especially with those guys, it's always on to something new. But that's not to say that, you know, an album release anniversary might not see us do something like that. We've definitely talked about doing albums like that before, so it's not out of the realm. I don't think it would be for an entire tour either. We'd probably make it like a special event somewhere, you know what I mean?
Very good.
But not out of the realm. It could happen.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I want to be there for it. So let's get on to your origins. You grew up in Kirkland, Washington, plus you have American and Canadian dual citizenship. Yeah. Can you take us on the journey into your beginnings of music?
Sure. My dad played a little bit of drums in grade school. Didn't pursue it any further because, you know, Vietnam. But I also had a babysitter that was also a musician and a drummer, and they started off my journey there. And when I was old enough to join school band, I got into school band, joined symphonic band and jazz band, and did all of that all through grade school as well, and took private lessons, lots of private lessons from a gentleman named Chase Culp, who now owns West Coast Drum Shop in Bellevue, Washington. Little shout out to those guys. They're all my homies. Yeah. And from there, you know, I got out of high school and wanted to continue music, gotten into a local band called System 7, and we did a lot of cool stuff around Washington. They're still around. They're still kicking. They're still kicking ass. I believe they have some shows coming up with Jeff Tate, so check out their Facebook as well, which is really, really cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and after System 7, I got into a band called Disillusion with one of my best friends, Weston Halverson. That band isn't really around anymore, but man, we had a lot of good fun. We toured with Combi Christ, Blacklight Burns, and opened for pretty much every band you could think of coming through Seattle, from Frontline Assembly to Wednesday 13 to Simple Shelter, everything in between. And just kept getting more offers to be in more bands, ended up getting into SMP from there, and then another Canadian band called Stiff Valentine, and from there into Left Spine Down, and from there into Unit 187 and Decree, and it just kept building and building and building, and it got to Julien-K and Pig and Lords of Acid and Hate Department and all these other amazing industrial bands that I grew up listening to. So yeah, it's been quite the journey so far.
Oh, so cool.
Nice. When you play with some of these different bands, do you have to kind of sit down and think about how you're going to approach the music, or is it pretty natural for you to jump
100%. I always try and figure out, what kind of attitude the parts need and how they sound and how they should be played. I really want it to speak for the music,
Oh, very good. You spoke of Weston Halverson, and the ironic part of you bringing him up is that he was one of our very first podcast guests about 7 years ago on the podcast. I know he spent a time with Thrill Kill Cult. What's he up to now?
Yes. Man, he's living the life. He owns a well drilling business in one of the islands in Washington,
mm-hmm.
and has a big piece of property and some land, and he got married, and yeah, man, he's kicking. I actually saw him at the Bellingham show with Julien-K and Power Man on this last run, so lots of good times to be had with him.
Oh, fantastic. Tell him we said hi.
Absolutely.
2005, you began touring with the band Disillusion. I believe the raw age of 19, correct?
Yep, both me and Weston we're a couple days apart, actually.
Okay. So,
yeah.
How did that opportunity come, I guess, both of your ways? Tell us the story.
Sure. So he didn't have a drummer, and again, playing around in the local circuits, we'd kind of run into each other because we were both the kids that couldn't be in the bar because we were playing all these bar shows, right? Because everyone we were playing with was older than us, and so we were the two kids always sitting outside, and we got to know each other, and we're like, we're kind of broing down, and I really liked his music, and he didn't have a drummer, and that just it just happened, man. Yeah, and we've stayed friends, and definitely owe Disillusion to a big part of my career. We did a lot of cool things, so yeah.
Oh, very good.
So, we talked to a lot of artists that, I guess I want to get your perspective as maybe not necessarily a younger person in the music industry, but some of the artists we talked to that think rock is dead, or that rock's on the way out. Can you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, as far as you're out there playing live shows, you're out there making records, what's the status of the rock out there?
I would say it's just fine. I know EDM and electronic festivals and all that are really big right now, but metal was still the number one selling genre the last time I looked. So I think we're still doing just fine.
Yeah. To piggyback off that is, we've noticed over the years, off and on, that rock and roll, any genre you want to think of, it struggles of pop culture, the top rung of pop culture. With that being said, is that your perspective is, what do you think? What will it take for rock and roll to be the top dog in pop culture?
To be honest, I don't know. There would probably have to be some kind of evolution, but I don't know if it would be rock at that point anymore. I think that's kind of the whole point. It's a little bit more aggressive than, like your easy listening or your pop music, right? And that's not always going to sit well with every single person. That's why it's not pop or easy listening. So not to discredit from its popularity, because obviously it's been a genre that has been around for, the last 80 years at this point, 80 or 90 years. So So yeah, I think it's always going to be up there. It's always going to be a thing. I don't think it'll ever die, but I don't ever think it will necessarily be pop either.
Fair enough. You've been known to be a sought-after drummer in the techno industrial rock genre. Are you fairly busy in the studio doing sessions for other artists when you're not working with Julien-K? Is it pretty much just an ongoing thing for you as far as, hey, I'm off the tour with Julien-K, I got other artists summoning me to the studio to knock out whatever they need knocked out? How's it work for you?
That's kind of how it is now. It took a while to build up that portion, just like it did to build up my touring repertoire and have, people call and need me for work. And now that's mainly just centered around Julien-K. But when I'm off tour, I have people contact me for tracks all the time. I finished up just on this break right now. I finished up a track for an LA band called Model M. I would highly suggest people checking them out. They're a bit all over the place in genre in a really good way. And I really enjoy doing tracks for Terrence, who's the main guy there. Mm-hmm. And I've also finished up doing a couple tracks for a band called Glass Apple Bonsai. And they're a very synthwave, and man, are they fun. So yeah, I'd highly suggest checking those guys out. But yeah, I get studio work like that pretty constantly. I know I'm going to have some new Left Spine Down tunes to do when I get back in December. So yeah, keeping busy, keeping it rolling.
Fantastic.
Nice. What kind of hobbies do you have outside of music?
I read a lot. I'm a big science fiction nerd. I have lots and lots of science fiction, and I enjoy reading it. I have a very large garden, and I enjoy gardening at least every day. Grow all sorts of fruit trees and everything. Yeah, man. All sorts of garden stuff. Let's see, and I do love me some video games. Pretty deep into Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom right now. So yeah, those are probably the big three things when I am not drumming, since drumming is still not only my job, but still a very large hobby.
Very good. One last Julien-K question for you. So since the inception of the band, they've had a few different drummers, I guess, in and out of the band since the band's inception. For you, with you in Julien-K in the now, is it something that's going to be permanent for you, or is this kind of like a hired gun mentality type of thing for you and your career?
When I was originally, they called me to be just a hired gun, and that's why there was a lot of interchanging with me and Alex for the first few years, who's an absolutely amazing drummer. He plays for Ion and Matt Black and the New Division, amazing musician. And so there was a lot of interchanging with that, and he got really busy with Matt Black, and so I kind of have come on to be a more permanent addition to the team. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Did we talk about how you got involved with like how you got in with Julien-K, or was there an audition?
No, I can totally talk about that. Yeah. We got linked up two ways, actually. It was kind of crazy. So I was playing a show with Left Spine Down in Vancouver. We were opening up for Scold at the time, okay?
Yeah.
And Eli James, who was the drummer in Julien-K before me, was currently playing for Scold at that time. So Fu, who lives in Vancouver, came out to see the show. Came out to go see his buddy, and he knew about Left Spine Down, but had never really seen us, and watched the show, and I guess took note. And lo and behold, he didn't introduce himself to me. I found out about this after the fact, and like a month later, I get a call from my buddy Troy Hilton, who had gotten me the gig with Pig a little bit earlier. I was like, I got this other band who I think you'd be great with. They're kind of in your neck of the woods, and I think they'd be perfect. And essentially Ryan and Amir got told, because Eli was planning on, was Scold at the time. So he essentially Ryan and Amir got told both by Fu and by Troy that they should check me out. And so they did. We called each other. I did a couple music videos for them, like drum through videos. Probably about a month later, we were rehearsing in Seattle together for a movie premiere that they had scored. So yeah,
Nice.
that was, crazy story, but super cool. Here we are 7 years later. So.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I got one last question for you, and then we'll leave you alone for the evening. Deal?
Yeah, no worries, dude.
All right, so I asked this question to all of our guests. It's going to be the toughest question you're going to have to answer. The mystery of rock and roll. It's no longer a thing with the dawning of the internet and all the various social medias that are out there. For you, the artist and the fan, what do you prefer? Do you prefer this new dawning of accessibility with the internet? Because if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you right now. Or do you miss the mystique and mystery of rock and roll that Kiss and Zeppelin and various other bands had? Where are you at when it comes to accessibility versus mystique?
Well, part of that I would say is kind of like the adapt or die type of thing, right?
Yeah.
I'll start off by saying that, and we'll elaborate more. The mystique back then was super cool, and we'll probably never see anything like that, but that's also what made it mystique at the time, right? Mm-hmm. They were doing something new, and they were doing something really cool that no one else had seen. Will we see something else that is different but just as cool and just as unexpected? Absolutely. I always think that will happen in any genre as time progresses. That's just I think that's just human nature, to be honest. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be something amazing coming. So, yeah.
But as for you, your preference, what do you like more, this accessibility, or do you miss that mystique?
I would probably say, the accessibility is nice. As with all things, there's, it's a give or take, double-edged sword type of thing. Yeah, has the value of music technically gone down a little bit? Sure, in some ways, yeah, with people being able to just freely download, or all of the streaming services that don't pay as much as they probably should. But at the same time, we're now able to have a direct link with our fans, which you could never really do before, and that is really, really fucking cool.
Yeah. Very good. We're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
Sure. I've got a cool Patreon account that if you're interested in learning more about me and the personal side of me, I reserve that for Patreon. You'll see all of the gardening and video games and books and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Besides that, all you'll see on my socials is drum stuff. So, and I do offer drum lessons, and I've got a really cool web store with a bunch of Galen Waling merch. Check it all out. It's all on my Instagram. It's all on my Facebook. It's all on the cool socials, or just check out GalenWaling.com.
Very good. This is how things are going to work out. Once Jeff, the editing wizard over here, gets everything all cleaned up, we'll send you the link, and please share it wherever you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Galen. We'll be in touch with you in about 2 weeks. Sound good?
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Take care. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
the grip of death. You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey. Roll the dice. Take your chances. Says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine. Fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. Hey.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.